as a business owner, you could leverage it for some good stuff. And I don't necessarily think that it's bad to use AI. You're not using it in a malicious way. You're using it just as like a normal cold caller would call someone, and it could have a higher success rate than a VA. What I'm using today, I might not use a year from now. You have to jump on now because we don't know what the regulations are going to be. I thought I was limited by the own money I had. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but still, I've bought properties where I've never even seen them. I never went to them, and I sold them, and I still haven't been to them. You could fail if you don't partner with others, and it's good to have another set of eyes on stuff too, because they might catch something that you don't catch.
Well, what's going on, guys? We got another episode of the Commercial Real Estate Blueprint Podcast. I got a special guest with us today, Chris Kirkman. He's a real estate investor focused on storage deals all across the country, focused mainly on out-of-state stuff. So I'm really interested to find out about his systems and processes and AI and all the stuff that he uses to take these deals down. So welcome. And Chris, if you want to give a little bit of introduction for yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Definitely really happy to be meeting with you guys, talk about some commercial stuff. And yeah, commercial is great. I love commercial, but I started out in single family doing the Burr method, basically turned a basement into an extra bedroom and bathroom. So converted a 2-1 into a 3-2, was able to rent it out a lot more, did a cash out refi, got all my money back pretty much. I'm actually selling that property right now, so I'm going to make a lot more money than getting my money back on that. And yeah, just kind of focused on kind of scaling to bigger stuff now, selling off my littler properties. But all that stuff is perfectly fine. You know, that strategy works really well for other folks. But me, I'm just trying to focus on commercial properties, particularly storage. But I've owned duplexes, triplexes. I still own some apartments. I'll still buy apartments. I love apartments, but you know, when it comes to commercial, but love self-storage for a lot of reasons, and particularly that there's no toilets or kitchen fires. And I've had to deal with both, actually. I had a kitchen fire last year, and I've had tons of stuff happen with plumbing, you know, basements that completely had pipes burst and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, but love storage because they're basically garages. So you don't have the same rent control or tenant issues that you do, you know, in multifamily and other stuff like that. So I live in Southern California. I have a wife, a couple small kids, and a couple dogs. They're both Huskies. So it's definitely a crazy house here. So, Orange County in particular, but I invest out of state, like for everything. The only property I own here is my home that I live in, but yeah, all my rentals are all out of state. And I've done like flips and new construction locally and some wholesaling, but I won't buy and hold anything here in Southern California just because there's better opportunities elsewhere. So, you know, I'm all about just going really into any state. You know, you just hop on a plane, and it's all about having teams and systems in place. And I'm sure we'll dive into the systems I use. I use a lot of AI and good technology, a lot of virtual assistants as well.
Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome. It sounds, you know, you like we mentioned before, you're kind of perfect fit. So like Jesse and I, we have a residential portfolio, and I'm actually in the process, kind of like what you're saying. I'm selling off one of the first properties I ever bought right now, and hoping to 1031 exchange it into we closed on our first commercial deal, but this will be a second one we'd be closing with this 1031 exchange. So just kind of making that switch from residential to commercial real estate. And that's really what this podcast is about. So we're really glad you came on here. And I know you have a lot of expertise in self-storage and all of that stuff. So just circling back a little bit, how did you get your foot in the door to real estate originally? Like, how did you get into single family? Like what sparked that interest?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really glad you asked that. And, you know, really what got me into it is I actually, going back into my childhood, I had a best friend that was really handy. And we built tree houses, like 2-story tree houses with like drawbridge ladders with electricity with a TV in it, those types of tree houses. And we're like 12 years old building these crazy tree houses. So I knew that he was going to become a general contractor of his own business. And he actually did. He actually renovated my bathroom here. But yeah, ended up kind of going to, my dream was to maybe start a business with him. He would do all the construction. I would handle the business side. And I really was interested in real estate back then, but ended up not getting into it for maybe another couple decades, actually. I just owned a bunch of other businesses. When I was in my mid to late teens, I started random stuff like pressure washing business, to pressure wash like homes, outside homes, and stuff like that. Also, started a skateboard company when I was 17. Did that for a few years. I've owned stuff like a food truck. I've owned stuff like a roofing company, all sorts of random businesses. And my main career through my life has been in design, graphic design, web design, user experience design is mostly what I ended up doing. Building apps, websites, things like that. So do have that tech background, and I kind of went to college for that sort of stuff, and did that for a lot of big companies like Zillow and Kaiser, and all sorts of different industries, a lot in the mortgage industry, a lot in the real estate industry, and travel, and healthcare, different things like that. So I had a bit of a background doing that, was paid really well, got really efficient at it, was able to still run businesses while I was doing that. Just, really got into efficiency and time management and just maximizing my earnings. So I was able to stack businesses and jobs, and always had picked up freelance work too, even when I had full-time jobs and all that. So that helped me pay for business, starting businesses, working capital, like buying a food truck and running that and different things like that. But I wanted to do real estate. I read some books, of course, a lot of us read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that really opened my eyes. I was already into real estate. This is going back almost about 10 years ago. And then, just went crazy on the books and podcasts and all sorts of different things. So I think one year I went through like 80 books. Most of them were on anything from real estate to ways, self-improvement, and business and different things like that. And that really helped me grow. And then of course tons of bigger pockets episodes, all sorts of podcasts, and then just got really educated on the subject, and then loved the BRRRR strategy. So ended up doing that for my first property, as I mentioned in the intro. And then just that kind of got me going. And I thought I was limited by the own money I had, and I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but still, I'm limited to how many properties I could buy. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? Then I saw how many loans that you're like able to get as an individual, and I'm like, man, I'm going to be limited here. So as I did more education, self-education, I found out that you could use OPM, other people's money, and that just opened my eyes. And then every single deal after that, using OPM. And I, every deal I'll put, some of my own cash into it. Maybe it's just the EMD, but, just working with investors is just a great way to scale. And you're providing them with really good passive income, really good return. And then of course you're benefiting, but you got to put the work into it. So the work part, if you hire, some virtual assistants and some really good help, and then of course as your company grows, you have other people under you. Doesn't have to become something that you're, having to spend as much time doing, but, just with the right systems in place. But, I grew that. And at first, the investors that a lot of people end up getting is just friends and family. They're not off raising capital or creating a fund or something like that. So friends and family were kind of jumping in on these deals, partner with a neighbor of mine. And then, just ended up completely restructuring my company for commercial years later, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Got really into apartments. I loved apartments because, having a vacancy in your single family, you're going to, you're kind of screwed. You're that could crush your cash flow for the year, right? But with apartments, you're spreading out the vacancy across multiple units. So that's what I really liked about apartments, and that's even with triplexes, it's better, because of that. So smaller, properties like that too. Still, if you spread out the doors, it's much better when it comes to that stuff. So that worked out really well. Really liked that. But I really got into, I'd done. With the BRRRR, there's some construction involved. I'd done some flips and stuff like that too. So I got really into the value add strategy. So buying properties like some apartments that we got, complete gut job, like every single unit renovated, all common areas renovated, parking lot repaved, all sorts of stuff like that. So, those I'm not afraid to do anymore because I've done it. And I took that into other types of properties with me. So once you kind of get comfortable with that, it reduces the risk of, for other properties. And when it comes to self-storage, I got really into that because, toilets and kitchen fires, right? So when I saw the, low expenses that they have, and I saw just value add on that's great. Expansion is great. It's a really simple formula that just clicked. I figured out how to judge markets really well. Look at the saturation of the markets really well. Just analyzing current properties really well. And I've done a lot of wholesaling and other types of acquisitions where I know how to talk to sellers. So that could help me find off market properties as well. So yeah, just really, that just kind of took off. Learned how to underwrite really quick. Ended up creating a free underwriting calculator that I put up on underwritingcalculator.com. And I really like that thing because I got kind of fed up. So when something is broken for me, I just go fix it. I find a solution. And that's kind of what I've always done. I'm very resilient. And I'm very, I don't just roll with stuff and just let stuff stay broken. Like I go and find a solution for it. It just bugs me if something's broken. And all these calculators are broken. They're huge. They're like these, like a million fields. And it's like, I just need some basic info to kind of get like when you're first underwriting something, you don't even have all the financials, right? So it's like, you're not gonna be able to fill the stuff in anyway. So I just needed a basic calculator. So I created a spreadsheet with that. And then, I know how to code a little bit, so ended up coding one. And then I had some help. Thank you, Peter, for your help. Shout out to him. He helped me with some of the formulas to get that to work initially in Excel, and then convert that to HTML and JavaScript, and then created the online calculator. And it's just basic. You just put some basic fields in there, and then it just kind of like the whole thing is like in 90 seconds, you could legit underwrite a property. You kind of know the going expense ratio, so you could easily put that in. You just get the basics in there, and then you can get your DSCR. Then like, can I actually fund this thing at this price? So get the 5-year projections, with slowly increasing the rent each year, maybe making your operating expenses lower. So different things like that you could really do in like 90 seconds, just with like basic info you get from an OM, an operating, whatever financials you're given. There's like just a few data points you have to put in. So really got efficient with that. And then, now it's like I work with some folks that bring me deals. Some of these days I'll have like 15 meetings because people are just bringing me all these deals. So we're underwriting like crazy. Like we'll submit like one day, I think we submitted like 20 LOIs. It was kind of crazy. But it's like, I'm all about just like taking action, really. So I'm all about just enabling people to just take that action, not to, I say the first step is taking the first step. Some of these people I've been working with are kind of new to the storage community or even multifamily or any of that stuff. And they're just like, oh, if I put an offer in, I don't know if it's the right price, but it's like the seller could say no. And then what's the biggest, they said no. Okay. That's like the worst thing that could happen to you. Right. So you might as well just put a bunch of offers in, and a no also means you could maybe negotiate something. So it's okay to submit 20 offers, because you might hear back from some of them and you might not. So, but taking action is like super crucial. And if you have a little bit of education, to do it, you understand kind of the basics of it, and that's great. But I'm also about partnering with people too. So you might partner with people that could kind of fill in the gaps. So we're all good at different things. I'm definitely not good at some things. So I partner with people that are good at the things I'm not good at. And I also hate doing certain things. And people love doing some of the things that I don't like to do. A lot of these people I work with, these first time investors, are like, they just want the whole pie to themselves. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, I don't want to give away too much equity. But my whole thing is like, there's a lot of pies out there, right? There's a lot of properties. You're not going to do just one property, and you could actually do more deals with more people. Someone might be great at raising capital. Maybe that's your bottleneck. Work with them, it's like you might like the top layer of the pie with all the frosting, where somebody likes a crust. Maybe you hate the crust. So work with the people that like the crust and you like the top layer. So what I'm getting at is you could take a taste of all these different pies and be on all these different deals. And that's really what people do. You hear of these people that own thousands of doors. They don't own the whole property themselves. They're partnering with a lot of people. They're partnering with investors. They're partnering with other people that are helping them, run the company. So, you can't think of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to own thousands of doors myself. That's just so much money. And, it's like, well, the people that say they do, they partner with other people. And all the successful people partner with others. So I'm really big into partnering. And of course you gotta pick the right partner. And I actually finished up a course on that actually covers a lot of partnerships. It's like 50 lessons or something crazy like that. So I had to record all those videos. There's a lot of written material with that, so that's coming out kind of soon. I have a little teaser for it right now. If you go on my social on Instagram, you could could grab it. Yeah, it's just really crucial to partner. And you could fail if you don't partner with others. And it's good to have another set of eyes on stuff too, because they might catch something that you don't catch. So, that's kind of what I'm about. That's a long-winded answer to your question.
No, yeah, that's awesome. I really connect with the serial entrepreneur part. You're all about that action and just figuring stuff out, and like, how do I get to $100 or whatever the goal is, and you're just peeling back that onion and figuring out the steps. And I think you're right on a lot of that. With people are scared and like, I'm not sure, but like, you're all about pushing people to get rid of all of the objections and just go for it. I like that. With going out and finding partners and stuff, me and Graham have talked a lot about partnership, and we're partners and partnering with other people. Um, are you partnering with these people that are out of state, and how are you using that to find more deals?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a virtual world, and through my tech background, I've worked with people all over the world. All the other continents, minus Antarctica. Just all over the world and all over the different time zones around the country. And because of that, I kind of have this mentality where you don't have to be in the same city as someone to work with them on something. And you also don't have to invest in your own city. And I read tons of books and listened to tons of podcasts about investing, out of state and managing remotely. And it just really opened my eyes. And, I have partners just all over. Some partners I've never met, and you don't necessarily have to. If you do enough deals, there's also investors that you might never meet. So there's just a lot of opportunities out there to partner with people that you don't have to go meet face to face. And I mean, you hop on a Zoom call or something like that. So of course you can get to know them and make friends with folks you might never meet. Actually, come to think of it, this is the first time I ever thought about it. Right when I about 20 years ago, when I a little more than 20 years ago, I got into like online gaming and stuff like that. So made a lot of friends that were all over the country, and we'd just play together all the time. We'd see each other in a game, be like, oh, I recognize your name. And then you kind of talk to each other. Then there's voice chat and there's different things you'd hop on. So little tiny communities kind of got formed in these different, games that I was playing. So I kind of had, that kind of actually helped me realize like, wow, I could actually work with people or, be friends with people all over the country that, and world too, even that I will never meet. And, with that, plus my tech background, working with a bunch of folks all over, it just opened my eyes like, you don't need to meet all these people. They don't have to be local. But what does have to be local is your team that manages these properties. So that right there is crucial. Having really good boots on the ground is how you make your properties successful. So having a really good team in place is super super crucial. So I've bought properties where I've never even seen them. I never went to them, and I sold them, and I still haven't been to them. And that's fine because I had a property manager and they took care of everything. So that's fine for residential. But, when it comes to bigger properties, like bigger apartments, self-storage, you definitely want to go there and make sure you get your team set up. Property management is a lot bigger of an operation at that scale, but then it quite isn't when it comes to self-storage, because you almost could hire a handyman just to kind of check on the property a few times and then automate the heck out of everything. And that's what I do, just set up systems and then use virtual assistants. So I don't even hire property managers for my storage because I'm able to self-manage. I actually formed a management company because I got it down pretty pretty well. And then the reason why I did that is because I could have the same virtual assistants working multiple properties at once. So that's why I have that management company. I don't need to hire like specific people for each property. They get a phone call, they know what number's calling in, they know what property it is. They just pull up the data for that and they're able to handle it all. And like I said, everything's just automated. People rent online, there's gate codes that are automated, like all that stuff. So, that's another thing that I love about storage. And, to an extent you could do some of that with multifamily, but people are living there. So it's a little bit different. You need somebody that's able to really act fast. If you have like a flood in the basement or the power goes out, or you're in a state that it gets really cold and it's the dead of winter and, the heating goes out, different things like that. So you got to have people that could act really quick. And sometimes it's really good to have a property management company for that. But with storage, it's a little bit different. You're able to it's closer to a hotel than it is a apartments, because it's more of a business than a lot of other types of real estate. So you are running a business with storage, but it's still a property too. But you could manage it a lot more efficiently, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I'm helping somebody set up some like online stuff for their self storage facility. They don't have any kind of website or anything like that, so I've been helping them through the process. And if it really comes down to the gates and stuff, like if you can get all that automated with, and then they lock their own stuff up. So, I mean, it really is kind of really easy to automate. So, on paper, anyways. Um, but kind of curious about your team and VAs, and me and Graham talk about this a lot. What do you delegate to your VAs, and how did you know, like, okay, this is how I needed to set up everything to, I guess it's probably a little bit of trial and error, but how did you figure out what you needed to hire out, and then how did you figure out the right person to hire it to?
Yeah. So the first VA I hired was for underwriting properties. So I was really big into multifamily, and I had, because I'm into multiple states, I targeted different markets that I cared about most, and I just reached out to tons of brokers. So I was getting, like I said, I'm really efficient with stuff. So I figured out a way to templatize like a message to these different people. And then I just changed some basic information for each person to make it look a little more personalized. And I just messaged, like spammed kind of like a ton of people. And then I got a big response. And I'm like, wow. But like I'd sourced these people, and these are like legit brokers in these markets. And I got a really big response. So like hundreds of emails flooded over the course of like just days. And I remember I went on vacation right after I'd done that. And I was like stressed out because my inbox was getting crazy. And I love living inbox zero. So having like 20 emails is a lot for me, because I always try to do all that. But now it's like I can't really handle that. There's always hundreds of emails. But anyway, yeah. So I hired a VA to help me underwrite these deals, because I felt bad because I wasn't able to keep up, and I also didn't want to miss out on a really good opportunity. So the VA, I taught her how to, and she's from the Philippines. And she's great. She was able to underwrite these and, kind of give me different scenarios, even at different price points and different things. So she really helped me, kind of keep up with all that stuff. And then I got a little bit into wholesaling, mostly single family at that point. So I had a bit of a wholesaling operation going, and then had to expand VAs for cold calling and, people that transaction coordinators and just all sorts of different types of positions that I needed. You'd have a cold caller, you'd have a closer. I mean, like all sorts of different positions. So did that for a bit. So built out that operation, and now I mostly just do commercial wholesaling, but I use that for acquisitions for myself, actually. So the properties that I don't really want, I'm pretty tuned into some storage communities. So there's a lot of folks that the property might be better for them. So I could offload it to them if it's not right for me. But I use VAs for all that stuff. But now I actually use AI, and we could talk about that maybe later. But AI cold calling, but for storage and management and all that stuff, VAs are great for tapping into those systems that you guys are talking about, that get set up. They're able to, take calls, even, talk to tenants, take payments over the phone, call delinquent tenants, try to reach people that haven't paid in X amount of months, all sorts of different things like that. So they're able to use the system, and, really do a lot of the day-to-day stuff, take all that stuff off your hands. I mean, really all that stuff they're able to do. So, I mean, you could even set up VA structures where you have a team of VAs doing a lot of the work, and then you need that layer of middle management that can maybe help manage those VAs. So that's something else you could do, because as you grow your business and you have a ton of VAs, they're all coming to you, and you're in meetings like we are right now, where you're trying to grow the business, you're talking to investors, you're underwriting properties, you're trying to, do it, whatever, you're trying to do to grow the business. But if you're getting messaged like every other minute by your staff, it could be really distracting. It could be difficult, and maybe you can't respond right away because you're on a call or something like that. So, if you have somebody else that's able to run your operations, that could be a partner of yours, or maybe that's another VA that's able to kind of manage kind of the other VAs. All that stuff needs to be in place.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think a lot of the people we've interviewed have said that one of the first steps as you're trying to scale is hiring basically the lower dollar per hour items to somebody else, whether it's a VA or maybe it's intern or whatever it may be. But something you mentioned was commercial wholesaling, and that's something I think our audience is people who are just trying to get started or get their first commercial deal. And I feel like a big lack, big thing that a lot of people lack when it's getting started is the capital for these deals. So you could go about raising the money, you could go about um, fixing that problem by partnering. But I feel like another good way that not a lot of people talk about is potentially, getting one or two commercial wholesales because the dollar amount could be so large. So I'm curious, like, what your process is for that. I assume you're just going through acquisitions for one of your own deals, and then, like you said, it doesn't quite meet your buy box, but you recognize maybe it's a good deal. So then you tie it up. But once you tie it up, how does it actually work on the other side of that? Like, what do you do? Do you go to these Facebook groups and just post it in there and then do a separate contract with them, or walk us through some of the details of that?
Yeah, so I've grown a bit of a group just through like Instagram. I know a lot of folks, and then I kind of have my own community that I'm growing. But there's another mastermind that I'm a part of. So there's a lot of people that are part of that I'm able to push it out to. Facebook groups are really good as well for wholesaling. But just through time, I mean, you meet different buyers too, and with commercial, it's a little bit different than some of the single family where you're selling to flippers a lot of the time. But with commercial, it's like a different person that you're giving it to because they actually might want to hold on to it. If you invest in that type of asset yourself, that type of sector that you're wholesaling, it could be the flex space you guys do, any of that stuff, industrial, then that market. So you're going to underwrite the deal. You could show the possibilities with it. You're not just like some of these wholesalers, like they just don't know, especially for single family, they're trying to, put the ARV and the, you know, how much it's going to take to rehab it and all that stuff. But with commercial, if you're able to show some of the possibilities and all that, then might entice other people to jump on the deal a little bit more than not. So I've recognized that because whenever I underwrite a deal, I'm able to I just go through all the different scenarios. I go through all the things I could do with the property. I go through the economy there, the saturation of the market for that type of asset, all that stuff. So I could convey that to a bunch of different folks through those different groups and stuff that I mentioned.
And then do you just tie it up with a different contract, or do you just simply assign the contract you have and give yourself a long enough time to let that person feel comfortable to take on that contract and then go to close? Because in commercial real estate, it's not like you're dealing with a 30-day time frame. It's
Yeah,
quite a bit different.
it's got to be quick. Yeah, I mean the contract has to be assignable, but you gotta act quick. So that's why it's important to network and to have buyers lined up. So, like I said, it's different than residential, and you're not dealing with like a bunch of flippers that are looking at, the. I mean, one of the reasons why residential wholesaling got so difficult, especially last year, was the amount that debt costs plus materials and everything went way up for flippers. So the margins were just way low on that stuff. But with commercial, it's a little bit different. And the people that I would be selling these to, they are actually signing the contract to for the fee. They're looking at it differently than like someone that's going to flip it. I mean, you could still flip the property, but they're just looking at it a bit differently. But you got to do it quick. So it comes into networking like crazy. So just having a good network, part of that could be being active in Facebook groups, but really like people that trust you and people that are your friends and people that you maybe are in a mastermind with or some sort of community with that you interact with a lot. I mean, they're going to actually buy from you a lot easier than some like random person in a Facebook group, really. So, if you just get in some sort of community, that's going to help you find buyers like way easier. So that's kind of what I mean, I have a lot of buyers and I have a lot of people that want to invest. Like some people are in a storage community and they don't necessarily think they could take on a whole facility themselves. Maybe they don't have enough time. Maybe they're just like, I just want to partner with someone that's done it. Maybe they just want to invest passively, just bring capital to a deal. I just talked to an investor this morning that's a situation. He just wants to hop on it. His first deal, just bring money to the table as a normal passive investor, um, and doesn't necessarily want to take on the whole thing himself as his first storage property. So he's going to become an investor in a deal. So that sort of thing. Those are people you can easily wholesale to. You have a relationship with them, and they're looking for those properties. I mean, a lot of people, they're like, I don't know where to find these properties. So I just go on Crexy or what? I mean, like where do I find these? So
Yeah.
these wholesale deals are, even though you're making some money on it, it's still going to be a better deal than if it was on the market or on some of these other websites through a broker or something.
Yeah, that's something too we've discussed a lot. It's like you can get good at finding deals. If you tie it up and it's your own deal, then the money will come if it's a good deal. And then also, it goes on the other side of this that if you tie it up and it's a deal you don't want to hold, you can find a buyer easily because it's a good deal. Last question I'll ask kind of on that category is, what's like a realistic, or maybe not realistic, like a reasonable wholesale fee? Because that's something in commercial real estate where I don't really know residential too well, but it seems like most of them are shooting for maybe $10,000 or $20,000. But in commercial real estate, are you seeing kind of like average fee, or is it just deal by deal basis, or like what how do you typically calculate what you're going to charge somebody?
It could be deal by deal, but really, like, some of these commercial deals are not much more than like a house in California. So you could find properties anywhere from, you know, $300,000 to 10 million, like easily, like in some of these commercial deals. So of course, the really big ones you can make hundreds of thousands on, six figures on. But some of the smaller ones you might just do for like, 10 grand, 20 grand if you can, different things like that. But, it also comes down to how much you're locking it up for. So if you're getting like a really good deal, but kind of what it needs to be wholesale, what needs to make sense to someone else. That's what you have to offer. You're not going to like tack on, um, if there's really only 20 grand you could put on it, you're not going to do it for 50 because somebody's going to run the numbers and be like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to be able to do this. Um, so it really also just comes down to like how much you're able to lock it up for, um, really what number makes sense to wholesale it for. So yeah, but the bigger properties, of course, there's more margin to do that. So if you're doing a property that's 10 million, you could easily tack on 100 grand or more even. So just comes down to what you're getting it for.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think it's cool. I think for those that are out there looking for their first deal, they can easily wholesale it if it's something that they don't want to do, or they can hire partners, kind of like the same situation you were talking about. Kind of switching gears a little bit, I've been researching AI and trying to figure out how I can, leverage it in the right ways. Talk to us a little bit more about the AI and stuff that you're using for cold calling, and then maybe some like ChatGPT stuff or whatever else that you're using. I'm very curious.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll start with the cold calling. It's great, and there's a lot of really good technology out there. Um, and you could basically program the AI to be a pro at Tom Sawyer, that book or what, like they anything that you want, like they could become a pro at and just know everything about it. And it's not very robotic in that, they have a certain script they have to follow. It could be very conversational. So, it's pretty intelligent, and there's different voices you could associate with it. And you could just have a conversation with it. And what I'll do is I'll try to break it when I program it a certain way. I'll try to break it. Like I'll mess with it and see what it's what it says back to me. But yeah, there's of course certain questions you want it to ask, maybe about the property, and of course gauge the interest of the person. It could transfer to you, or it could transfer to one of your VAs. It could also find out like a time to call back. It could schedule even on a calendar an appointment time. It could take down contact information. It could do all that stuff that a regular person could do. But it's not, you can't think of it like a robot where it calls and it asks certain questions, and if they answer it a way that's not scripted, it's going to sound robotic or like break or like repeat itself. It doesn't necessarily do that. It's able to just adapt to the conversation, and the more you train it, the better. You could put in basically this knowledge base, just all this information. So it knows about all the terminology, all the wording. It knows how to use that wording. The better you train it, the more smart it's going to sound. And I don't have a huge rate of people knowing it's AI or questioning it. There used to be a big delay when it would call people and respond, and we would get around that by just saying, hey, by the way, some people have noticed there's a delay, so sorry about that, but so we don't even have to do that anymore. It's pretty quick, and there's different voices you could try out, different accents, and the cool thing is it could be bilingual too, which is great because I used to have to hire Spanish-speaking VAs for certain parts of the country. If you're working different parts of Florida or even California, even Texas. I mean, just all there's so many states that have a lot of Spanish speaking people, and once it detects that somebody's speaking Spanish, it just switches and just starts speaking Spanish to them. So it's kind of cool. So it's super powerful, and we're just at the beginning. I mean, we think this is like mind blowing, and it is mind blowing. We never had this kind of technology, but it is bettering itself at a very fast rate. And we are just at the start of it. And a lot of crazy bad stuff is going to happen from it. And a lot of bad stuff could happen, but a lot of good stuff could happen. You can actually leverage it to do some good stuff. I could see how there's a lot of malicious stuff, a lot of deep fakes and crazy stuff that's going to come out of this. But as a business owner, you could leverage it for some good stuff. And I don't necessarily think that it's bad to use AI. You're not using it in a malicious way. You're using it just as like a normal cold caller would call someone, and it could have a higher success rate than a VA in some cases. It's just great. And I use it for a video. I use it um, for editing photos. I've written business plans using it, just like here's this, dot, dot, dot. Here's a bunch of bullets of all the key aspects of this business plan. And it spits out like a 10-page amazing business plan. You could say, I want it as a Word document. It could do certain things and make an Excel spreadsheet if you want. You could put in a bunch of data that's just all like jumbled up and ridiculous. And you're like, wow, there's thousands of fields here, and you tell it what you want, it could organize it in a nice spreadsheet and give that to you. So there's a lot of different things you could do just with ChatGPT, and especially photos that you could output, and it's great for social media. I've digitized my voice, AIified it or whatever it is, where I could use it as it could read a script even, and then I could output that if I just have video to it. On this recording, I could talk naturally, but if you ask me to like read a script, I could show you on my phone the number of takes I've had before. It gets ridiculous. Like I'll have like 100 takes for like one video. You know what I mean? If I'm like reading a script, even like a 1 minute script trying to make a video, it's like I do a million takes. Whereas like naturally I could talk, but yeah, so it's like I either do that or I use AI. If I'm just gonna have a background video, maybe I put it up with B-roll. Why not just do my voice in AI and just like output in like 2 minutes or something like that? So that's really helped, and there's a time savings involved with that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's super super powerful just with what it could do, and it saved me. Actually, I made a legal contract the other night. A I'm actually doing AI for clients. My team were installing it for people too, if anyone's interested in that. But for a new client, I just wanted to put together a basic legal contract. So I put all the parameters in. I said what type of contract it is, and I put all the legal speak in there and structured it just as something I could have paid a lawyer to do. I'm sure a lawyer would do a better job, but something basic. It can do things like that. I've had it do operating agreements for LLCs. I end up having lawyers sometimes look at those, but it's a good starting point. So instead of a lawyer taking, 3 hours to put something together for you, maybe
Yeah.
only pay them for a half hour because they restructure a couple things. So there's just a lot of ways it could save you money, even if you have somebody else give it a second pass. It's a good starting point in a lot of ways. Even if it writes something for you, I've had it help me with a lot of different content, written content, and then it's a good start. I end up going in and making tweaks, changing stuff, but it's great. So I use it quite extensively.
That's awesome. What? Just curious, like tangible. actionable items, what are what are some of the programs you're using specifically? I'm curious what the cold calling one is.
I mean, we just switched to, we're actually between a couple different vendors, and I don't want to speak of the one that we chose yet, but we were using Air AI, and they were really big. And a lot of you probably seen their ads on Instagram or Facebook, but they've run into some issues recently, so we switched. And I think they've been shut off for a while. They had some difficulty, but there's a lot of different vendors for that, really, and they're all good, really. A lot of them are like the same thing, and some of them will white label another vendor's like tool, and then just tack on like better support or better interface to set up or something like that. So a lot of the technology is kind of identical. What I'm using today, I might not use a year from now, because all these different vendors are popping up. You kind of have to jump on now because we don't know what the regulations are going to be. I know with SMS, usage, texting potential buyers, when I was doing a lot of wholesaling, they really cracked down on that, and it's really difficult to get good messages out. So I really kind of shut down my SMS marketing because of that. I mean, you got to put weird wording in there and all sorts of stuff, so you can't really make it sound natural. Um, so they might do that with this AI stuff, and I'm starting to already see some laws and stuff like that go into place for it. But really, like, there's so many great vendors that I've looked at. It's just like whatever will work with your CRM. Like, there's different tools that'll integrate. So like one guy wants a HubSpot integration. So, I'm using a certain AI tool that has another tool that basically links them together and helps automate things and all that stuff. So it's really like what your purpose is. And then you got to just know how to, train it. You got to learn how to program it. And a lot of them are the same, like I said. So once you kind of have that down, once you have, how to train it, you have the right wording to put in there, the right prompts, all that stuff, you could pretty much take it from vendor to vendor because a lot of them are quite similar.
Yeah, we're looking into doing something similar to that with Zapier, using the links and linking it to emails and CRMs and having it help us automate follow ups and um, looking into some outreach stuff, but just keep everything organized, right? Something that we're trying to figure out how to do, and maybe the answer is transaction coordinator, but manage a bunch of different transactions at the same time, whether they be wholesales or personal acquisitions or stuff for our brokerage firm when they buy. Um, do you have any advice on that and how we could potentially use Zapier or stuff like that to keep up with like managing all those different properties?
Absolutely. You definitely want to get it in a CRM. I was using REI Sift for that, and that would connect to my call dialer, but there's so many other ones out there. But doing that is crucial, especially with your AI tool. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to have that organized in some way. And there's a lot of good CRMs out there that connect. And using Zapier is great. Zapier does a lot, and it integrates with a lot, and they're kind of the industry standard when it comes to linking different bits of software together. Of course, there's others out there that'll work with some of the ones that Zapier might not integrate with. But just whatever your need is, use it. And you got to go into it thinking like, oh, I might not use this 6 months from now because the technology is changing. So be very careful what you overinvest in, because you could spend so much money building something out and then it becomes almost obsolete 6 months from now. So that's what I've done before, and I've learned it the hard way because new technology came out. And it's not all AI based. It could be just a new tool that comes out or a new way to integrate something. Or, if you're really heavy on the SMS and that gets crushed like it kind of did, then, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I just spent, 40 grand building this thing out. So, just kind of be careful what you over invest in, and, it might be better to use kind of the cheaper option of linking stuff together, just because, technology is just, shifting and changing quite often. But back to the transaction coordinator, you definitely need somebody to kind of handle that for you, because you want to probably grow your business. You need somebody that's able to handle kind of that day-to-day stuff for you. They're able to look at that CRM, see all the leads come in, see where they are, organized, and then of course appropriately deal with them. If you're dealing with the buyer, that you're and you're trying to wholesale or something like that, then you need somebody that's going to handle all the buyers that you have, handle all the sellers that you have. It's a lot of work to be calling all these people. Just to schedule someone to go in and take photos of a property could be a lot of work. You got to talk to the buyer, you got to talk to the seller, just all these different things. So you probably don't want to do that yourself, and it's going to really hold you back. And you're creating a new job, another job for yourself if you're doing that yourself. So it's not like you're too good to do it. It's not, like I'm the kind of owner that if I had a restaurant, I'd be scrubbing the toilets. I'd be doing everything. But I know that my time is better spent growing the business than being the one that's scrubbing the toilets every day, right? So you hire someone to do that. That's why I hire somebody, to mow my grass at my house, because they're mowing the guy next door. And, it's more efficient for them to roll through and do that. And they're going to do a better job than I am too. And half the time I'm going to forget to do it or get busy or something like that on the weekend. So it's better to just consistently hire somebody to handle something for you, because you're going to drop the ball. You are going to become your bottleneck, because as a business owner, you're going to get bogged down with some fire that comes up, you're taking care of it, and then you're going to neglect another area of the business because you only have a certain amount of days and hours. And also your mind has no matter how smart and organized you are, your mind can't focus on 50 things at once. Like, especially if like a big issue comes up, like you're going to drop the ball on something else. Like whatever you're doing right this minute, you are basically saying no to doing other stuff. So I'm talking to you guys and I said no to doing other stuff. You're talking to me and it means you're not doing something else, right? So same goes with stuff. And we're never like busy. I don't like using the word busy because like I don't say I'm too busy today or something. It's just like it's about priorities. Like what you're doing right this minute is your priority. So as a business owner, if you're neglecting something else, it's because something else is taking priority. So if you have people to handle those things for you, those things that are not as high a priority for you that you just can't get to because you don't have like 50 hours a day, those are handled and it's somebody else's priority. And your priority is then to just make sure you have enough people that can handle all these different things. So you don't want to grow too fast. You don't want to have too many people. I've done that before where I hired way too many cold callers, way too much staff, and it could get really expensive and it could get messy and it could be hard to manage. And all these employees are going to you and you got to talk to them, make sure everything's good. And if you're scaling too fast, it could hurt you, but you still have to have at least some systems in place where there's people handling stuff for you. And it could just be software too. Sometimes software or AI can be that. It can handle a task for you, but something's got to be in place because you can't be doing all this stuff yourself.
Yeah, that's good. And something too that I've noticed that obviously have done well at, is, and it's a whole other part of kind of what we talk about, is the social media aspect. It seems like you've grown your personal brand, and you've also been able to connect with some bigger names. So I'm curious, like how you went about doing that and how it's affected your business to date, because I think you have like 11,000 followers or so on Instagram, which that's not a small following by any means. That's a pretty substantial amount of people who follow you and are seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I want to grow that much bigger than that. And I have people helping me now with marketing and all that stuff. And the thing is, like, I don't want to grow and become famous and get all this attention and all that. I'm not going to be the guy flashing Lamborghinis and whatever. Like, I don't want that. And I'm an introvert. I don't like a lot of attention. I don't like being in front of a lot of people. Like I'll do some public speaking just to like train myself to be able to handle it. Like the first times I ever do that, I'm the guy up there shaking, my knees are shaking, I'm like nervous. So I by all means don't like attention like that, but I've recognized that it is the single most thing, it's the greatest thing to move your business forward. Because if I'm in a bunch of investor meetings and I got to explain who I am and go through my history, I'm wasting all this time convincing people that I have credibility. Whereas if I'm on social media and showing that I'm doing all this stuff, somebody's already going to see all that stuff. Then they hit me up, then I'm getting a cold lead from someone that wants to invest in some of my deals. I'm already getting that like quite a bit. The more large of a following I have, that's just going to grow and grow and grow. And I don't want to have, you could pay for followers, like, and you could, I don't want to do that. Like, it's not about how many followers you have. It's like how much engagement you have, like how much the people that follow you actually care about your stuff. Like, I don't want people to follow me unless they actually really care about what I'm doing. So that's why I try to just show what I'm doing and try to provide the most value. Like, yeah, I got a paid course and, all sorts of paid stuff, but I got all this free stuff. I put out a pretty amazing calculator that's completely free. I put out a sample course that has some of my best lessons from the big one in there. Like, you got to provide value to people, and I just want to see people succeed. And that's part of the social media thing. But people bring me deals also, so deal acquisition is a lot easier by growing your social media following. So all that stuff is just really important because you know you cut down on you you skip a lot of steps by doing that. I don't have to explain who I am and what I've done as much if people already met me on social media. And just
Yeah.
as far as working with people, some notable people in the industry, it's just a matter of just finding ways to rub shoulders with them. Maybe you join their mastermind and excel in their mastermind. Like, that's what I do. I basically say, hey, like, this person is where I want to be, or this, I want to learn from this person. So I say, like, someday I will be known by them by name. I will have their phone number. We'll be friends. Um, and then I make it happen by, maybe I join their mastermind. I learn from them. I do, like, the best job I can to learn from them. I take action. Most people don't take action. And if you show that you're taking action and learning from them, like, you're kind of elevating yourself closer to their level. Like, you want to get to their level. It's important to, like, associate yourself with people that you want to be at their level. You don't want to go lower. um and and I'm not saying people, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. It's what I mean is, like, if I want to be as accomplished as someone, I'm going to associate with people like that. So and it's not for show or notoriety or anything like that. It's just to help further myself. I'm going to learn from that person. So if I show traits that are similar to them, if I show that I'm excelling, then I'm going to get more attention from them. And what I mean by attention, I'm able to provide value to them, but they're able to provide value to me as well. Maybe we partner on something. Like, some of these people I'm actually partnering on some stuff with now. So it all kind of, it just, you just gotta show that you're taking action, and you get attention by doing that. And the first step is taking that first step. So you just gotta do it.
Yeah, for sure. Graham talks to me all the time about activity breeds activity, and I think you explain mentorship like perfectly. You show them how you can add value to them, and you know that they can provide value to you. You just have to show them that and work with them, whether you're being a partner or you're bringing them money, and then you just want to learn along the way, or whatever that looks like. You maybe just have more time, and you have more time to put in to a deal that I can run the whole deal for you, and then you get that feedback from them. It's like, hey, this is probably where we should go. And you're like, oh, okay, then I'll spend my time on that and, make the deal happen and all that. Um, my question was, with all the social media and stuff, me and Graham have kind of debated, like, do we stick to just Instagram and Facebook or LinkedIn? And then do you also do emails, or do you just stick to like the social of like Instagram and Facebook?
I don't do enough on Facebook, but Instagram by far is, even beyond TikTok. Uh, Instagram has the best results, I think, by far, and a lot of people agree with me on that. I'm working with some folks helping me with marketing, and and I'm also starting to do some email stuff, just because I'm collecting email addresses for some of the free stuff that I'm putting out. So that's another thing. When you provide a lot of value, a lot of free stuff, you're able to collect contact information, and you build some credibility and trust and a following by doing that. And those people are more likely to buy from you in the future. And when I say buy, like, I didn't want to really monetize off of this stuff, but when I'm having 14 or 15 meetings before 1 p.m., I'm looking at things and I'm like, okay, I'm being held back from, like, actually earning money when I'm just, like, helping a bunch of people. So it can hurt you, it could hurt your family if that's, like, all you're doing. So there comes a point where it's like, I gotta, this stuff is worth something. You're actually furthering somebody else. They're benefiting from you. They're actually succeeding because of you. You might as well sell this. So that's kind of the thing that was a tipping point that made me. Sorry if you could hear my gardener in the background, but anyway, that that's the reason why I'm putting anything paid out there. And you got to do the email campaigns, um, because it's also awareness. Like, people will not see you post on social media. Like, Instagram is not going to show what you post to every one of your followers. They don't do that, so they're not going to always see what you're posting. They're not going to be aware of what you posted all the time. So sometimes it takes 3 emails for somebody to see your email, because maybe it goes to spam. Maybe they just look at it real quick and just disregard it because they're going through their email real quick. So sometimes by the third email, maybe they'll click on it. So, um, you just got to kind of cover all those bases. Email, you got to hit them on social media. You got to, get stuff integrated into your DMs, where someone could DM a word, and then you have your system that's able to then send them a link or something like that once they give you your email. You got to do the funnel where you collect their contact information when you give something away for free. All those different things are really important. So that's
Yeah.
definitely something you should be doing. But Instagram, I think you get the most value out of marketing through.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty cool. It seems to be very similar to what Matt Gray does with all of his funnel and everything. That's pretty cool. We've looked into all of that with the Convert Kit, I think is what he uses,
Mhm.
and just monetizing that stream, because you are throwing a lot of value out there, and me and Graham are still learning it, and I think we could add some value to a lot of people, and we're trying to through this podcast. So that's
Yeah,
that's kind of like
that's what
that's
you're
kind of like how
doing.
we're
I mean,
doing.
this
Yeah.
is super valuable because it's entertaining, because you're talking to a bunch of different people. So someone might be interested in storage or something, or whatever you're going to put that I like to do.
Yeah.
And in some of the notes, you might have somebody on that's into short-term rentals or something like that, or they listen to it. So you're definitely providing value, and podcasts are a great way to raise awareness, about you and what you guys are all about, and to also increase your following. And I'm trying
Hmm.
to put a podcast out as well, and it'll be through my same platform. It's called Stating It Real. It's just stating it real. It's a play on words, like real estate, stating it real. Anyway, so all through that, it's called that. All my learning materials called that too, but I haven't quite released it yet because I'm kind of waiting for my co-host right now. So once we're ready in that regard, we'll be launching that. But it's great that you guys are working with each other, because it's great to have a couple different people, because each of you ask different questions. You provide a different dynamic to the podcast than instead of just like one person. So having a co-host is like super super important, and it's great what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Graham brought me on for kind of that same reason, and he needed a little bit of push, and he's like, I want to do this, and I have a lot of value, and I know I can interview people really well. I can, network really well, and I'm kind of like a little more introverted than Graham is, and but I know how to execute, and I'm just, he calls me a killer, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely helpful because I had interviewed probably 5 or 6 people, and it was going well, but it's just more fun to have somebody else, and also somebody else. We can push off of each other and feed off each other's energy. And since we started working together, because we initially started working together, we bought a duplex like 3 years ago, and then we just talked about real estate all the time. So since then we've done quite a bit of stuff. So uh, I think we're just getting started, which is awesome. But it's exciting to hear about your podcast and all the stuff you've got going on. It's very inspiring to people like us. It's kind of like the next level to get to. So we appreciate all the value you've added, and it's been tremendous. What's one of the best ways for people to get in touch with you or connect with you?
Instagram, just my name, just Chris Kirkman, at Chris Kirkman, I guess. On Instagram, you could DM me there. You could follow me on there. I put a lot of stuff out. You could kind of check out what I'm doing, put a lot of freebies out on there. But also, the statingitreal.com website, there's a lot of free stuff on there too. I got a free group on there. I got, there's some free courses and stuff like that. The calculator that I put out, underwritingcalculator.com. And then chriskirkman.com also has like links to a lot of stuff that I'm working on and different businesses that I have. So yeah.
Awesome.
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 Yeah, really appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.